Let's really step back from a specific product, that being zSpace, that we'll talk about today, and let's do a survey of this technology landscape. When you hear all of these acronyms, VR, AR, you may have even heard XR or MR. Um, with the thing that's consistent among all of them is that R, realities. The two most prevalent ones that students are engaging with today, and maybe you are as well, and maybe you've seen some of this being used in your district. Um, One is virtual reality, VR. Most people, when they think about VR, they think about what's called the head mounted display, or HMD. It's that device that you put on, similar to the way you would put on glasses, but when you put it on, it fully isolates the learner from the surroundings. You've probably seen these when you've gone into Best Buy right at the front of the store. It's been a big promotional tool. Or maybe even when you upgraded your cell phone, they offered to bundle an HMD with your purchase. Most commonly in education, it's been used with Google Expedition, with the Google Cardboard that you may have heard about. But regardless, the key feature or affordance of the HMD and virtual reality is that the student is fully immersed with the content. Meaning that if a student's learning about under the sea and they go into this space, regardless of where they look, whether it's behind them, around them, they're going to be under the water examining sea life. Now, I want you to remember that full immersion aspect of it so that as we talk about these other realities, you have a comparison and contrasting point. Because now, as we switch and we leave virtual reality and we talk a little bit about the second space, augmented reality, which should populate, there we go. It's a space that probably kids are most often on a day-to-day basis, even hour by hour and minute by minute, students are communicating with each other. You may have seen it with Snapchat or even in Instagram, where you can take a picture or what's really happening in a space and you can put digital content on top of it, so that all of a sudden maybe a person is smiling and taking a selfie, but then they add that digital content that all of a sudden turns them into a puppy dog with ears. You may have also seen it when you go on the some of the new websites for stores, like if you're going to go buy some new glasses, where you can turn your camera on your computer, it shows you there, but you can virtually try on the glasses. That's augmented reality, or AR. And what is the key feature there is that you have what's really around you and you're augmenting it with some digital content. So, again, you probably noticed I didn't mention anything about that head mounted display and full immersion, because the difference is with virtual reality, you don't have what's really around you. With augmented reality, you do have what's really around you and you're augmenting it with content. Then you have this space between, or that takes elements of both virtual reality and augmented reality and really looks at and leverages how can we use it for teaching and learning, gaming, uh, looking at patient data in a hospital environment. It's that space where the student does not have to be fully immersed, but they can experience other places, other content. And it can also be used to augment what's really around you. And that's where zSpace falls in. You may have also noticed that if you walk through a mall and there was maybe a Microsoft store, right now in the front, very front, you're going to see the Microsoft HoloLens. Look close at that next time, and you'll notice that you can see the person's eyes when they put their little glasses on. That's what makes it different from the head-mounted display, because the student through those glasses sees what's really around him or her, but also can interact with digital content. So we have this technology landscape that can be represent content in different ways. And what we want to do now is really peel back the layers and look at what is zSpace specifically. So when we talk about zSpace, what we're talking about is a device, and the device can either be an all-in-one computer, like you see on the left-hand side, or it can be a laptop. And you will notice the student puts on glasses, but those glasses don't isolate the student from his or her surrounding. You'll also notice that the student here has a stylus, looks similar to a pen or a marker, and that stylus is what allows some interaction to occur. So in the case here, we've got a student who's pulled out a car engine and is doing, I think it's a car engine, is doing some assembly and disassembly. And then on the right, we have a student who is dissecting a frog. Regardless, they have access to that content. They're able to interact with it just as if you were working with the real object in a classroom space. Some features that allow all of these interactions to occur are built into those screens. So you do have to have a unique piece of hardware in order to make this occur. And that unique piece of hardware is the zSpace experience. So what happens is the computers both have built into the edges around the screen devices that track the glasses and the stylus, and they allow for the content to come out of the screen just like what you're seeing visually represented in the pictures here. Some other things teachers can do, though, is they can connect these with their interactive flat panels so that if they're wanting to do some whole class instruction, or if students complete a dissection and they want to share with their peers or with their teacher to demonstrate a mastery of learning and understanding, they can do that in a larger setting. The one thing that's not represented here that's critical, though, is that multiple students can sit at the device together and collaboratively work. So if the young man on the left side and I wanted to work on a car engine to talk about what we were doing, just as we would in the workforce, then I could put on a pair of glasses as well, and I could observe what's happening. We could dialogue about it and work through it. Now, I point that out because we all know that as we look at those 21st century skills for learning, that collaboration rises to the top. And that's a key affordance that not only helps kids learn in the classroom, but prepares them for the workforce in which they're going to go. I also pointed out as a real talking point around the difference in a head-mounted display versus a device like zSpace where you can collaborate. So what does this mean for the problem we're trying to solve? Well, we know that we hit a pivotal point in education that for many of us we're trying to figure out now, but most districts are in this are working through this problem of what does school look like in the fall. And we know the language that's been around with blended learning previously. You may be hearing the term hybrid learning. What we want to do is sort of peel back the layers of that and say, okay, on a continuum where on the left you have face-to-face instruction, on the right you have pure distance education instruction, what are all the components that fall on that continuum? And how does a tool that uses AR, VR, like zSpace, fit into all of those scenarios? So if you're really peeling through and thinking about blended learning in your district, feel free to check out our website. On our educator resources page, you'll not only find the blended learning strategies, but you'll find short videos showing kids and teachers using zSpace to incorporate into those strategies.
Now, what I want to try to do is really set the stage for you in using this. This is one of our head trainers and head CTE specialists. Her name is Nikki Lester. And we're going to show you what it's like to use something called zView.
Hello, today we are going to cover a little bit of human body atlas and some information on carpal tunnel through one of our models. just so that you can see what it looks like in a 2D and augmented type of view during a recording if technology is not available for students to actually work with, but maybe for the instructor to have available. So to get here, we're going to open Human Body Atlas, which I've already done, and I'm going to open up my menu. Under my 3D models, I'm going to go ahead and select the muscular system view, and I'm going to go under the wrist and hand. Now, notice this is a 2D view, and the reason that we're going to do that is we're going to flip through a few things that can actually be looked at here. And one of those would be going ahead and selecting particular areas, because how do we know where carpal tunnel affects the wrist and the hand? So by going ahead and selecting some different areas, I'm just going to kind of explore. And in here, I went ahead and selected the abductor pollicis brevis. So I can get the wording or the exact pronunciation to be read to me based on the sound if I have external speakers or headphones on. I then can go ahead and click on the book icon, which will give me the full definition of the abductor pollicis brevis. Now down here, how do I know it's affected by carpal tunnel? Well, I do have a patho with a little stethoscope that covers some of the common ailments that go along with the abductor pollicis brevis, one of those being carpal tunnel syndrome, and I can actually read through that full definition. I can do that, and I can see different areas and see where those areas, if affected or not by carpal tunnel, and there goes carpal tunnel there. There also goes carpal tunnel at some of the band areas, the flexor rectinaculum, which also has carpal tunnel, and the extensor rectinaculum. So all of the above, but for this activity, we're going to go ahead and select the abductor pollicis brevis, and we want to do a deeper dive. So we're going to go ahead and explore the muscle, and we're going to open up one of our animated views. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump into zView so that you can see in here how the flexation of that hand works. And again, we still got the capabilities to select some of the areas, but if you're looking on screen, you no longer see those. The focus of this and being able to show this model is how to really look at up close and personal and be able to further discuss how the abductor pollicis brevis can be affected by the carpal tunnel in conjunction with some of the other areas like the flexor rectinaculum, etc. So then we can go ahead and flip out of zView, and it will take us back into the regular view where we now can see that definition again. So today, just a little bit of information on how to be able to jump between 2D and the augmented view, especially if you have to do a recording or be able to see in a version where you do not have access to the technology right in front of you. Thank you.